Welcome back, everyone, to my Dungeons & Dragons campaign, Session 18. As usual, please watch the previous episodes to catch up on what's happening. Cutting back to Mr. Haley's Cirque. Lantern light flickered against the weather-worn canvas of Mr. Haley's Cirque as night settled over the fairgrounds, turning the sprawling maze of wagons, ropes, and tents into a world of silhouettes and whispering shadows. The big top loomed like a sleeping giant, its stripes muted in the dusk, its guy lines creaking softly as the wind dragged cold fingers across them. Inside, where performers usually practiced under rings of bright, magical light, only a handful of ever-burning candles were lit. Their glow cast long, wavering shapes across the rafters where Joy, a wiry acrobat with chalked hands and restless eyes, was perched halfway up a support beam. She kept glancing over her shoulder, as if expecting something to drop from the dark above. On the sawdust floor below, Eliana knelt beside a circle of chalk, runes, and small silver charms arranged nicely.
The soft murmur of Eloin's divine incantation blends with the rustle of canvas. Her holy amulet of Soon presses reassuringly against her chest. She keeps the handkerchief Mr. Haley gave to her against her nose as all of the sawdust and chalk threaten to send her sinuses into a frenzy.
Lance lingers near the tent entrance, arms folded, watching the shadows with the alert stillness of a man who expected trouble at any moment. The air smelled faintly of incense and something else, like old smoke, like something that had breathed too close. He also keeps his beloved in sight.
Joy dropped lightly from the beam, landing beside Eliana with dancer's grace, but her hands tremble as she holds out the next sword stone. Are these really going to help? She whispered, because ever since Mr. Haley arrived, the lights flicker at night. Ropes come undone. I swear I heard someone talking in the empty cage. Something's wrong here. Something's watching us all. I swear on me very soul.
Eliana lays the stone in place, her voice gentle but firm. That's why we're setting up these wards. They won't stop every danger, but they'll make it harder for anything unpleasant to cross into this tent unnoticed. Another gust of wind pressed the canvas wall inward, making the shadows ripple like ink. Lance's hand drifted toward the hilt at his belt, just enough for Eloin to notice. Eloin quickly turns her head to the side, inhaling, on the precipice of bursting into a sneezing fit.
Joy swallows hard. Mr. Haley says it now. Stress before the solstice showcase. But the others are changing. Ava won't look anyone in the eye anymore, and the strong man keeps muttering some language I've never heard. Her voice dropped, ragged. Eliana, what if the curse is real?
For a heartbeat, the candles sputtered. The runes flared faint silver as Eliana's spell settled into place like stars pressed into chalk. She rises slowly, dust and chalk falling from her hands. She buries her nose into the handkerchief, barely managing to keep herself from sneezing. Then we'll be ready for it, she said, meeting Joy's frightened gaze with steady calm. Whatever's hiding here won't stay hidden for long.
Outside, a distant low growl carried on the wind. Lance straightened. Joy stiffened. And the last candle went out.
Darkness swallows the tent. For a breath, no one moved. The sudden absence of light is so complete it feels physical, like a heavy curtain dropping over the world. The air shifts, carrying with it the mingled scents of sawdust, chalk, old rope. And underneath it all, a faint, musky rot.
Eloin blinks rapidly, waiting for her eyes to adjust, her dark vision granted by Soon slowly kicking in. A prickle of irritation gathers in her sinuses again. She presses her handkerchief discreetly back under her nose again, willing herself not to sneeze. Not now, please, not now.
A soft scrape echoes from somewhere high in the rafter. Joy sucks on a short breath. Antezan closed silently on his sword hilt.
Eloin whispers stay close, though she couldn't actually see either of them just yet. Her voice felt too loud, bouncing off the dark canvas walls.
As seconds scraped slow, the libret traveled along the beam above them. Joy whispered, that wasn't the wind.
Eloin tried to channel a trickle of divine sense, not enough to give herself away, but enough to test the air. Beneath the ordinary dread, something tugged faintly at the edge of her awareness. Something unresolved, unsettled. It felt like a cold fingertip tracing her spine. Another tickle of dust invades her nose. She pinches it quickly, breath hitching ever so quietly.
Lance shifts closer. Eliana?
She holds up a hand, half warning, half plea for silence, fighting the sneeze threatening to burst free. The chalk circle at her feet had been disturbed slightly by the sudden wind, a few lines smeared, small grains rising into the air.
A whisper of movement brushes the tent wall just behind Joy, soft cloth dragging across canvas. Joy d'Arsacid, Artenertro. Something's in here, she breathed barely audible.
Eloin forces herself to inhale carefully through her mouth. She reaches out, finding Joy's arm by touch alone. Keep steady, she whispered. We don't know what it wants. A low, throaty creak came from the far corner like a wooden trunk being opened an inch at a time. But the prop's trunk should have been latched. Eloin remembered Joy locking it earlier with an audible snap.
Lance stepped forward, sword half-drawn, metal whispering against leather. If anything moves,
A gust of wind slams the tent's outer flap. All three flinch, dust explodes upward from the floor, enveloping them in a gritty cloud. Eloin gasps quietly as that tips her over the edge. A huge sneeze tears itself out of her, muffled behind her handkerchief, but painfully loud in the silence. A second followed immediately, sharper and louder.
The shadows above answered with a soft, wet clicking like fingernails tapping wood.
Joy stiffens en whispers avec son tête.
Eloin wipes her eyes, blinking tears from the dust, adjusting her glasses. Everyone stayed together. Slow movements. Nothing panicked. But even as she said it, the candles, every single one they'd lit earlier, flared to life at once. Their flames elongated unnaturally, stretching thin and blue dot. The entire tent was suddenly bathed in cold, ghost-like light.
Joy clutches Eloin's arm. Lance lifts his blade fully, steel catching the eerie glow.
On the highest rafter, something shifts. Not fast, not pouncing, just leaning forward. Slowly, as though curious. Its silhouette is humanoid, but wrong. Limbs too long, head tilted at an impossible angle, and its eyes, if those pale glints were eyes fixed directly on Eloin. The chalk wards at her feet began to tremble. One silver charm spun in place, vibrating.
Lance's voice was low and steady. Eliana, call it now.
Eloin swallows, dust stinging her throat. Joy, no matter what happens, don't run.
The figure above you all smiles, or at least its shadow does, and then it begins to climb down. The thing on the rafter paused halfway down, its strange limbs bending with slow, deliberate uncertainty as if tasting the air rather than preparing to strike. The blue candlelight flickered erratically, stretching its shadow into knotted, rippling shapes that crawled over the tent walls like living vines.
Joy's breath rattles on her chest. Why is he moving like that? She said quietly, voice thin as glass.
Eloin wipes dust from her nose and eyes, the lingering sting making her voice come out a little hoarse. It's probing us, she murmured, testing.
The creature shifted again, and its shadow detached from the wall for a moment, just a brief second before snapping back into place. Eloin barely caught the movement. Lance did.
His jaw tightens. It's using the light.
A faint rustle sounds behind them. Eloin whirled instinctively, eyes searching, but saw only the dim canvas, the ropes, the chalk, circle, nothing else.
Joy clutches Eloin's arm. He was behind you, she hissed. I heard it.
A cold pulse sweeps through the tent like a sudden change in pressure. The candle's blue flames shortens all at once, shrinking into sputtering, trembling points.
Eliana, Lance murmured, brace.
The attack comes not from above, but from everywhere at once. A slashing tendril of darkness erupts from Joy's own shadow, snapping toward Eloin's face. She ducks the strike, slicing through empty air with a hiss. Another arm of shadow sweeps across the ground, grabbing for Joy's ankle.
Lance lunges, dragging Joy back as the dark limb recoils like a burnt serpent.
The candles flared violently, throwing sharp, shifting beams across the tent, each light revealing the creature in a different position for just a heartbeat. Perched on a beam with limbs folded like a spider, flattened against a canvas wall like a painted silhouette, crouched behind the prop's trunk, too large to fit yet somehow fitting. Every glimpse lasted less than a blink.
Eliana wards. Lance shouts.
Eloin staggers to the chalk circle, dodging another tendril of shadow that stabs toward her ribs. She presses her handkerchief across her nose again, another sneeze building from the dust, the worst timing imaginable. She clamps a hand over her face, eyes watering as she fought it down. Not now, not now, oh gods.
The creature surges forwards in that moment of weakness, a blot of writhing black detaching from the far wall, rising to full height.
Joy screams.
Lance slashes, his blade whistling through nothing but smoke like air.
And then a sudden gust blows through the tent, every candle snuffed out simultaneously. The blue light vanishes, the pressure dissipates.
The silence that followed was so complete it rang in everyone's ears. Eloin holds her breath. No movement. No clicking. No creaking beam. Just the settling of dust around her, glittering faintly in the moonlight that seeped through a tear in the canvas.
Joy exhaled slowly, watching Dante with his sword still raised. Did he leave whatever he was?
No, it didn't leave. It just went somewhere we can't see.
Whatever that thing was, it hadn't left the circus. It had simply slipped back into the night to watch from somewhere else, waiting for the next moment of fear to feed on. Silence smothered the tent for several long breaths.
Eloin lowers her hand from her face, her nose still twitching with the aftershocks of a sneeze she'd barely suppressed. Dust floated lazily through the dim moonbeams, settling onto the scuffed sawdust floor. Her heart hammered almost as loudly as Joy's ragged breathing beside her. Lance remained in a defensive stance, blade angled low but ready, eyes flicking to every corner the creature might have slipped into.
The tent canvas gave a sudden ripple. Someone outside.
Joy gasped, backing up a step. No, it's coming back.
But then a familiar voice called, "Smooth as polished brass, is everything quite all right in there?" Mr. Haley steps through, lantern in hand, unlit, but held with a confident flourish as though it were a stage prop. His coat shimmered with silver embroidery that caught the moonlight. And beside him, framed by the glow outside, stood a young woman with blonde hair swept neatly behind one ear.
"Mother! Father!" Jocelyn said breathlessly, slipping inside. "I heard screaming. What happened?"
Jeanette, Eloin reminded herself fiercely. Not Jocelyn, not here.
Joy rushed toward Mr. Haley. There was something near. It came out of the shadows.
Mr. Haley cleared his throat lightly, stepping further into the tent. "Let us not jump to conclusions, Miss Joy. Darkness and nerves play cruel tricks this close to the Solstice Showcase." He smiles at Jeanette warmly, too warmly. "Thank you for accompanying me, my dear," he said to her. "When I heard shouting, I simply couldn't risk anything happening to one of my rising stars."
Jeanette flushed, though part of it was clearly mild frustration. "I told you, Mr. Haley, I'm not."
"A performer yet," he finished, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. "But with your grace, your beauty, your presence, you would command this stage."
Lance stepped subtly between Haley and his daughter, forcing the man to withdraw his hand. "Appreciate the concern," he said evenly, "but you should know something unnatural was in this tent."
Haley arches a brow, the picture of practiced skepticism. Unnatural. But his eyes moved too quickly to the chalk circle on the ground, to the smudged wards, to the silver charm still faintly vibrating. His smile didn't slip. Not even a little.
But Jeanette saw it. Eloin saw her daughter's eyes on, reading the tiny tell she'd been trained to look for.
"Mother, were you hurt?"
Eloin shook her head, though she dabbed her handkerchief under her nose, dust irritating her all over again. No, just startled. She glanced meaningfully at her daughter. "You shouldn't have come out here alone, sweetheart."
Jeanette crosses her arms. "I wasn't alone, Mother."
Haley beamed. Indeed, she was not.
Eloin pinches her nose, trying desperately to contain another sneezing fit. She tries to be as quiet as possible, but she fails, having a long, loud sneeze attack into the handkerchief, her glasses sliding down her face a little.
"Bless you, Mother."
"Bless you, my darling."
Gesundheit.
"Oh dear," Haley chuckled lightly. "Terribly drafty tent, isn't it? Perhaps it is all simply a misunderstanding."
Joy shook her head violently. No surdisting attacked us. Lançò Eliana nearly got.
Eliana nearly sneezed, Haley said gently, cutting her off. "And in the dark, these shadows must seem very frightening."
Jeanette steps forward. "But Mr. Haley, there was something. I heard the scream."
He placed a hand on her back, ushering her toward the exit with careful, subtle pressure. "Which is exactly why you should be with me, dear. This circus can be dangerous for those unprepared. You belong where you're appreciated and protected."
Eloin stiffened. "Janet belongs at the temple," she said coolly. "Tonight proved that."
Haley didn't even look at her. "Ah, but temples are so dreadfully dull, don't you think?" "With all due respect." He turned to Jeanette with a soft, charismatic smile. "You deserve a place that celebrates your talent."
Jeanette's gaze flicked uncertainly between her parents, the smudged wards, and Haley's insistent charm. Before anyone could speak again, a loud thump echoed from the far outside of the tent.
Another thump, closer this time, a dragging scrape along the canvas wall. Something wasn't gone, not fully. The lantern in Mr. Haley's hand trembled just barely. Only Jeanette noticed. Joy tenses. Lance raises his blade again.
Haley cleared his throat, composure snapping back into place like a mask. "Well," he said briskly, "seems we may have a loose animal after all." I will send my men to investigate. His smile flicked briefly, almost nervously, to Jeanette. Jeanette, a moment with me, if you would.
Jeanette hesitates, looks at her parents, looks at the dark corner where something had lurked moments ago. Then she retreats back, closer to her mother, father, and Joy. I think, she said quietly, I'll stay here tonight.
Haley's smile faltered, only for a heartbeat. Then it returned, polished and perfect. As you wish, he murmured, and vanished into the night beyond the canvas. The scraping outside stopped, as if whatever was out there followed him.